Welcome into the Colts Squad Show. I'm your host, Derek Schultz, and the Colts might make this a very crappy Christmas.
And I'm Zach Hicks, and at least we have the Indiana Hoosiers football team, which is crazy to say.
I'm Alan Pinkett, former Oiler, and although I'm new to Colts fandom, the curse is real.
Colts Nation, rise up. It's the Colts Squad. Everything Indianapolis Colts every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Circle City, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. It's time to squad up. The Colts Squad Show starts now.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Locked On Colts Network. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. I'm a dejected Derek Schultz, indie sports talker and sports columnist for the Indianapolis Business Journal. I'm joined by Notre Dame legend and former NFL running back Alan Pinkett, who's having himself a rough day as well, considering what happened to his alma mater. And you everydayers know Zach Hicks, everybody's favorite film buff from the wildly popular Locked On Colts duo of Locked On Colts Daily. Jake Arthur expected to join us coming up here in just a little bit as he's wrapping up some of the post-game coverage there in Jacksonville. But as you guys know, the game just went final a few moments ago. The Colts' second half tailspin continued with their annual loss in Jacksonville. But the Daniel Jones injury made that result much more troubling than just your average loss. On today's squad show, we're going to discuss what a likely serious Daniel Jones injury, looks like it was an Achilles. He returned to the sideline in a boot. What that would mean for this season and next for the Colts. If and how Indianapolis can lift themselves out of this collapse. We'll play week 14 studs and duds because there's always a little bit of good to go with the bad, and how Indy's outlook goes and how it looks with where we sit today, because it just does not feel or look or sound. You know, the vibes are bad, as the kids say. Vibes are bad right now for the Colts. But guys, you know, as I mentioned, sometimes the result of the game is the secondary story. And while this was a hugely harmful loss to the Colts, Zach, as far as the division is concerned and the playoffs are concerned, I don't think there's any question. The headline emerging from this afternoon is, how does this team live without Daniel Jones? If the prognosis is as bleak as it looks.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Colts fans here, we always love our good friend Tom Moore, right? Tom Moore always had the greatest quote ever when it came to backup quarterbacks. And I can't say the full quote on here. This is a family show, except when Alan gets a little excited. It's not a family show then, but it's a family show every other time here. But basically, he said in less words here that, you know, when we don't practice screwed, you know, with our backup quarterback. What is it when you're down to your third string quarterback? What is it when you're down to your rookie 6th round pick quarterback? That's the big question with the Colts right now. So if you want to know what the outlook is for the Colts the rest of the season, and probably even next year, with it likely being a torn Achilles for Daniel Jones. So torn Achilles, if you guys recall, me and Jake talked about this all offseason with Samson Ebukam. Torn Achilles is not a 1-year recovery. This is like a 2-ish year recovery. So even if Jones is back on the field in the first half of next season, he's going to be a shell of himself until the 2027, maybe 2028 season. So yeah, the outlook for this Colts team, especially this year, but next year as well, is extremely bleak. I mean, look, Riley Leonard, there's no situation where this is going to be good for him. It's just a tough situation in general. There's under no circumstance should a 6th round pick rookie quarterback be getting like legit live action like this for a playoff contending team. So it's just an unfortunate thing for him. There's no real way to break down his play because he shouldn't be on the field. But when you're down to your third quarterback, it's just how it is. So yeah, I don't want to be complete doomer here with it, but I don't really see the avenue for the Colts making the playoffs this year, let alone winning another game. They're playing 4 playoff teams the rest of the season. And we saw the difference that having a quarterback makes today. Trevor Lawrence wasn't even like perfect today, but those plays outside of structure, those plays down the field that he made were the difference maker in a lot of ways in this one. And again, when you have a rookie 6th round pick quarterback, you're not going to make those same type of plays. So it's just going to be too much to overcome for this Colts team, and it's going to be one of the craziest collapses possible. Yes, part of it is the quarterback injury, but also they were kind of trending down regardless. But from 7-1 to likely 8-9, there's going to have to be a lot of people that answer for that. But you can't really tear it all the way down because you don't have 1st round picks next year. So you can't fully tear it down going into next season because that doesn't do you any good either. So the Colts are in a very, very, very tough situation going forward. Riley Leonard, go make the most of these 4 games and maybe earn yourself some. I mean, gosh, if he can somehow win a game or 2, he's going to earn himself a ton of money in the NFL. But that's kind of the situation the Colts are in right now. Tom Moore said it best. You're screwed if you are relying on the backup quarterback. And I don't even know what he would have said about relying on the 3rd string rookie quarterback. I feel like it would have been even worse for Tom Moore in that quote.
Well, I've experienced this similar situation when I was playing in Houston, and Warren Moon got hurt. He broke his finger on an opposing team's helmet when he was following through on a throw. And the guy who came in to take his place was Cody Carlson. And there was the similar doom and gloom because let's face it, we all leaned on this guy, Warren Moon. And I mean, his play speaks for itself. He's in the Hall of Fame. But what we did as a team is we all rallied around the fact that Warren wasn't going to be there. And each one of us collectively decided we had to step up our game, by 100%, to try and make up for the loss. I'm sure that's what this Colts team is doing or plans to do is, realize that they still have a good team. And although the quarterback is the most important piece, it's, fighting for those extra yards. It's holding that block for an extra second. It's, making secure tackles. It's more details that you have to incorporate in your play right now to try and make your dreams come true of getting to the playoffs. And it's sad to see Daniel Jones go down like that, but Daniel Jones doesn't play defense. And the defense today had their share of issues. Some of it, the offense put them in those situations. But, as far as this curse you were talking about, which I wanted to ridicule you for it because it's like it doesn't exist. But after I saw the first interception on the first play from scrimmage for the Colts, I was like, oh, that's what they're talking about. And I've been in those games too, where anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And you just have to fight your way through it. And this is one of those games where you watch the film, you flush it. You got to remember that you're a pretty decent team and then go out and make the next team pay for how sorry you were today.
My thing I'll say before I kick it to Jake here, the Colts are probably clogging the toilet because they're flushing a lot of film lately. So they might have to jump to a different toilet or something because there's been a lot of flushing lately, and I don't think the pipes can handle all the film that they've been trying to flush. But I do agree, Alan, the defense today, you said that players need to step up when they see a guy go down like that. It felt like the inverse happened today, where it sucked all the life out of the defense. The first drive was great. They got a 3-and-out to start the game. And then when that injury happened, all the life was out of the defense. The offense was pretty lifeless as well, but the defense just lost their fight. And look, you don't have a chance when your rookie 6th-round pick quarterback comes in, but especially if your defense isn't going to give up a fight either. So, just can't happen.
You guys talking about Daniel Jones or?
I guess, yeah.
No.
Didn't know if that was a big story or not, Jake.
Yeah. No, this, like you guys mentioned, things were already kind of trending down. And the hope that you were getting was that, Jones is going to start feeling better in the leg and maybe their offense can get back to scratching some of what they were earlier in the year. And now obviously that is kind of kaput, assuming the worst of the fears are confirmed tomorrow or tonight. But yeah, it's a shame because I thought early on, I even started making notes. I was like, all right, they got a couple bootlegs out of Jones. It's starting to look good. They're maybe a little bit productive. And then the floor falls out, obviously. So I don't want to try and zap everybody's hope at all or anything. I do think Riley Leonard probably played a little better than I thought he might, especially given the conditions, but that doesn't change the fact that you got to go to Seattle next week. And then you've got a big Monday Night Football game against the 49ers. And then, you have to tie up these matchups against the Texans and Jaguars after that. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. It feels like there's a million things to say, but you almost like all you can do is shake your head and be like, of course, this is how it goes. You know what I mean? Like, this is just so unbelievable, but at the same time, because it's in Jacksonville, it's all very believable. And yeah, grand scheme of things, which I'm sure we'll get to here shortly, there's any number of ways you can go. I don't think there's really any wrong answer at this point.
Yeah, you just added to the pile of all of the horrible memories of the last decade down there in Duval County. But Zach, and I know that this is going to be kind of an ongoing topic, but this is the first time that I feel like we can broach it. If this is indeed a serious injury, like you mentioned, the Achilles, we all know the timeline is no bueno, right? To say the least. I'm not just saying that because I just came back from Mexico. But when you talk about what they may do with Jones, you know, the long-term extension stuff and all this stuff that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, right? Like, you have to, business-wise, you have to put all of that out the window. Would you let him hit the market and then it'd be you try to get him back on a 1-year deal, or, you know, or even from the Jones perspective, you know, a guy that, you know, you talk about how bad of a day the Colts had. Nobody had a worse day than Daniel Jones today. I mean, he might have cost himself 80, 90, $100 million.
Yeah, he lost so much money today, and you do feel bad for the player. Like, he was having this resurgence of a year, even with it kind of rolling back a little bit the last couple of weeks. I thought, for instance, against Houston, he was the best thing about their offense. I thought he played some pretty good ball, but now he goes from looking down the barrel of like a 3 or 4 year contract at like $40 million per year to now probably being like a 1 year incentive laden contract to come in here and sit for probably the first half of next season, the first quarter of next season, and then maybe get an option to start. So he's going to have to evaluate his you know, what he's looking at. The Colts probably are his best situation because the only competition as of right now is Anthony Richardson. We'll see if the Colts go out and get somebody else. But Richardson will maybe be back next season. Who knows with the injuries? But I'm sure Minnesota will be calling to get him on the back burner as well behind JJ McCarthy, just if McCarthy starts off next year slow too. So we'll see there. But yeah, it's brutal, man. It's the unromantic aspect of football. The brutal part of the sport are injuries that happen to guys, and especially happen at these times like this. So yeah, Daniel Jones is going to be out. And for people saying that this is on the Colts for playing him out there, it wasn't the injured leg. I mean, I'm sure that playing on the other injury does, but it was just a bad step in the rain that popped his Achilles on his right foot when his left foot's the one that's injured. So it really wasn't really due to, I mean, I'm sure that there's part of it, but it was certainly the right foot, not the left foot. So it was just a freak play that happens similarly to what happened to another Indiana player this year as well in the NBA finals. Some things just happen. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be out for the year here. So when we were talking about the Colts having a 2-year window with the trade for Sauce Gardner this year and next year, I just don't know what the window looks like now when you're not going to have this quarterback who was playing fairly well for you in the first year, because he's probably not going to be in play for this year or much of next season either. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what it looks like for the Colts, and we'll talk about more in the final segment, but just a brutal outlook for both Jones and the Colts going forward.
And we have to wait and see what the prognosis is, but
Sure.
It's the Achilles is one of those that it never forewarns you. You don't get any signals beforehand. Like, there's no irritation or sometimes you can get tightness down there, but you stretch it and it's fine. But there's just all of a sudden out of the blue, it's like, damn, I didn't even know I had an Achilles issue until the thing bust on me. So it's unfortunate that type of way that it had to be the Achilles, because yes, it is a very, very long road back. And I don't know if there are degrees to it. It still is, you're talking about 1.5 years, 2 years to really get back to full capacity. So indeed a big blow. So what's going to happen is Riley Leonard's going to have to grow up in a hurry. And Shane Steichen may have to change the offense around just a little bit to find the things that suits him. But I still believe that they can win with all the weapons that they have, but they might have to dink and dunk it down the field.
Glad that you mentioned that, Alan, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. This will, of course, depend on Jones's status, but can the Colts pull themselves out of this tailspin? And if so, how? We'll discuss next when the Colts Squad Show returns. This portion of the Colts Squad Show brought to you by our friends at Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. If you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gifts that deliver every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories. Because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it, so when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out. No setup headaches, just instant smiles. And that's actually what I like, with my son being the favorite grandson for my grandparents who aren't very tech savvy. These Aura frames will make a great gift for my folks. I can upload endless photos through the app and ensure that they're always getting the latest and greatest moments from their beloved James. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, rated #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code Locked On at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code Locked On. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. And we're back on the Locked On Colts Squad Show. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Derek Schultz alongside Alan Pinkett, former NFLer and Notre Dame legend running back, Zach Hicks and Jake Arthur of the Locked On Colts duo, as we are recapping. I don't remember what the final score was. It was 36-19. They went for 2 a couple of times. I was kind of numb after the Jones injury, but still, the team is going to have to march on, even without him, and potentially with Riley Leonard here. You know, Alan had kind of mentioned it. Look, they're weapons, right? But it's about figuring out a way to utilize them when you're down to essentially a third-string rookie. Not essentially, you are. That's what you're down to in Riley Leonard. And Zach, when you just kind of look at this schematically, I know this is very difficult to do on the fly. Are there things, let's start with the offense, are there things, leaning heavily into Jonathan Taylor, the short passing game, just finding a way to kind of scrape together 17, 18, 20 points to maybe give yourself somewhat of a puncher's chance? Is that possible for this team here in the final couple of games, albeit against, Seattle and San Francisco, and, you got another game against Houston coming up, no slouches left on the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, in the NFL, nothing's impossible for sure, but these were 50-50 games at best with full capacity from your team. Yeah. If you get DeForest Buckner back, if you got Sauce Gardner back, if Braden Smith and Alec Pierce weren't out with concussions, what looks like they might be out this next week as well due to injuries, and then now, your quarterback issue, these would have been 50-50 games at best for the team. Now, with all those injuries, with those guys out, and again, especially the quarterback, I mean, I'm sure there's some way you can scrape together some points in these games, but I'm just going to be realistic. I don't really see it. I don't see much of a chance. Riley Leonard, I don't think played terrible football. I think he played fine for what he is, but a lot of what he's going to be is a guy where if he can hit his back foot and drive it to a wide open window over the middle of the field, he can make those throws. But if you ask him to throw it outside the numbers, you ask him to throw it vertical, I just don't think you're going to see as many great responses. And he's still a quarterback who just hasn't seen a ton of the blitz packages that we see in the NFL. There were a couple times he got hit from them. He's not really going to help with the line protections and get those things going that way. So, yeah, I don't really know what the path is for them to win these games. I mean, the defense needs to be the best defense in football, but without DeForest Buckner, without Sauce Gardner, and with the way that they played today, how can we think that that's going to happen? This was their worst performance of the season on defense. They rolled over for most of this game. So why could we expect them to be the one that steps up and performs, So outside of them just getting under center and running it 40, 50 times with Jonathan Taylor and hoping he breaks through, I just don't see a path really against these playoff caliber teams.
Well, that's where you say we got you right where we want you. That's where you hope the players say, this is right where we want to be, because I've been in those locker rooms where it was all doom and gloom, but you have to pick yourself back up. And Riley Leonard is a guy who I would consider a winner at quarterback. But yes, he did get drafted in the 6th round for a reason, because he's not necessarily a game-changing quarterback. But then Tom Brady got drafted in the 6th round too. So you see, I'm reaching. It's one of those, again, I can't say it enough, where the team has to really just make a decision that they're going to do everything it takes to win a game. And if it's, mini ball, 5-yard passes, but then breaking something for 40, 50 yards, then that's what it's got to be. And then the defense has to also make sure they put the offense in a good position by stopping somebody. You can't really control the injuries. I'm still confident in the weapons that the Colts have, but the stakes now are a little bit different. And the stakes mean that they're going to get the best game from all their opponents. And with this, losing 4 out of 5 is sort of like sharks smelling blood in the water. And so teams are really, when they see you're down, that's when they try to step on you. And so you got to somehow put a stop to that as the Colts.
I think the very first thing they have to do is just believe that they can win, because that's when you get into situations like today, where if Jones plays, the game probably does not get as out of hand as we saw it get. But if you go into the game thinking you don't have a chance because Riley Leonard's your quarterback and Brett Rippon is your backup and all that, you don't stand a chance at all, because you have to at least have some confidence that you can do something. Because, again, it looked like the defense didn't play up to par and that they were deflated. Obviously, the offense knew what was going on with their side of the ball. But if you don't even believe you can compete, then that's the just most enormous problem you can have. But otherwise, obviously, it's going to be run-centric, whether it should be or not. It has to be, and it will be. And I don't know. I'm trying to roll back through the things Riley was good at in the summer. And, running around buying time a little bit and then throwing downfield. Like, if they make the passing game nothing but dink and dunk, like many probably expect, that's probably just not the best avenue. Now, his arm talent is definitely limited, but I think kind of like Sam Ehlinger, he's comfortable throwing downfield a little bit. So you just have to lean into what is most supportive around him with the run game. The offensive line has got to pick up the most possible slack that they can, and then just kind of let him cook. What do you have to lose at this point? Lean into what he's most comfortable with, and if that is throwing the ball downfield more than Daniel Jones did, then so be it. Like, the best chance you stand is to not force him into stuff that makes him feel totally out of place.
And a quick response to a lot of the comments here asking about Anthony Richardson and all that. He hasn't even had his injury reserve window opened yet. And that's typically when it's opened, It's like a 3-week return rate there, like we just saw with Jalen Carlisle's this past week. So, it's not. I don't anticipate Richardson playing at all this season.
Yeah, he's not been declared out for the year, but I wouldn't count on him being back this year. That was a severe eye injury, and the only rehab for it is really rest. Like, it's improving, but maybe he can get back for the last game or two. I would go forward as if he's not going to play.
Yeah, you'd have to assume it's going to be Leonard here, kind of moving forward here. If we were to say, hypothetically, what it could take for the Colts to hold on to a playoff spot, Zach, you have to split these final 4. I mean, it's 10 the bare minimum, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, maybe with 9, you could get a bunch of tiebreakers with some help, but you never want to put yourself in a situation and need help. We've seen that with the Colts in the past, and it usually doesn't work out for you, putting yourself in the situation where you need to rely on other teams. But yeah, your goal for the Colts, I mean, your goal obviously is to win all 4 of these if you're a team. It's just how you have to operate as a team, but they need to at least split these games. You don't want to rely on a bunch of tiebreakers and all that. And let's see who they're going against. They're going at Seattle, home game against the 49ers. That's a playoff team as well. And then these 2 divisional teams where Shane Steichen is 2-8 in his career with the Colts against Jacksonville and Houston. So he doesn't have the best track record against those two teams. He needs to somehow pull out a couple wins with those. So it's not looking great for the Colts. I mean, it's just a tough, like maybe if you were playing like Vegas and Cleveland down the stretch, you could maybe get like a 10-9 victory or something and sneak yourselves in. But you're playing playoff caliber, like not even just playoff caliber teams. I mean, Jacksonville has been on a roll lately. They're killing teams these last couple of weeks. Houston is won 5 straight. Seattle's arguably the best team in football. And the 49ers are the best road team in the league right now, and they're coming to Indy in that game. So these are very, very difficult games, even if they were fully healthy. Now with all the injuries, with Braden Smith might be out this week, Alec Pierce, who knows what the rest of his season looks like. This is potentially his second concussion of the season. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't see the avenue. I really don't see it. It would have to take a monumental collapse from whoever they're playing against in the game, like from an opposing quarterback to just be missing his throws and they're fumbling snaps and they're just losing a game they don't deserve to lose, and the Colts capitalizing on that, which can certainly happen in the NFL. It's just the margin for error is so slim in every game, but especially when you are probably not the better of the teams in your matchups. And with the Colts, the last couple of weeks, they've been shooting themselves in the foot so much that to win these games, you have to be perfect and bank on these teams making mistakes. With them having, Jonathan Taylor's fumbled, whatever the heck was going on that 3rd and 4th and 1 before the half with Shane Steichen, whatever the defense was doing in this game, those plays can't happen if you want to win with the 3rd string quarterback. And we saw today it turned into a blowout loss as a result. So, I really don't know what the avenue is for the Colts. I think we're likely looking at an 8-9 season they can't tank next year. They don't have a first round pick. There's no point in tanking. You have to still go for it next year, but it's tough to sell anybody on your 8-9 team who just had arguably the biggest collapse, tied for the biggest collapse in football history or whatever, coming back and putting together a playoff season. So yeah, it's bleak, man. It's bleak. It's very bleak, Colts Nation. I don't really know how to sugarcoat it for you guys. Maybe Alan can sugarcoat it a little bit for us.
Well, yeah, I would just say, the guys still have to remain positive. They still have the ability to go out and make plays, despite who the quarterback is. They were a machine earlier in the season, so they've got to find those things that made them a machine. And Riley Leonard, he's going to get a crash course. I think the other teammates will be encouraging enough and just let them know, hey, just go out and give it your best shot. We got your back. Hopefully they can protect him, because if we thought Daniel Jones saw some exotic blitzes, what they do to a rookie 6th round draft pick, what kind of exotic stuff they show him. But the main thing is get the ball out of your hands, and that would be your best bet at completing the long ball. Is if they're going to sell out, you got to make them pay when they sell out. So there will be a tremendous amount of time spent on blitz pickup. And there's a couple things they can do to compensate. They can just send 2 guys out and max protect for him so that he has time. And hopefully our 2 guys can beat their 8 back deep. But it's you can't ever give up hope. And there's, I'm sure, been situations before where backups came in. I mean, look at Frank Reich. Again, I'm reaching. But there are instances out there where you can still achieve what you want to achieve because you've got most of the things in place that you need to achieve it.
Yeah, and at least the benefit for the Colts, if there is any benefit right now, I'm the doomer right now, but if there's any benefit, it's you already have 8 wins. You need like 1 game to just break your way. Maybe the bad reffing will work back around and help you out in one of these games and steal you a win. I mean, at least you already have the 8 wins. This isn't like you need to win out to make the playoffs and you're trying to do it here. Like, you just need a couple bounces to go your way. And what's the thing we always say about the NFL? It's hard to beat the same team twice. So the onus will be on Jacksonville and Houston, but this is just me trying to spin it with Alan here. It's not going to happen.
Speaking of bounces not going your way, I always was familiar with the rule that a 50-50 ball always goes to the offense.
Let's attack the officiating as a common enemy soon, because I have very strong opinions.
In the next segment, we'll talk about it because, I don't even just have the officiating as bad just for the Colts. I know the Colts had some bad, but, every single call they made in this game felt terrible.
In every game.
It was awful.
Yeah. Some dud officiating and a dud performance in Duval County again for the Colts, but that doesn't mean that there weren't any standouts. So we'll do exactly what the guys are talking about. We're going to play Studs and Duds next when the Colts Squad Show returns. This portion of the Colts Squad Show brought to you by Gametime. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets, it's usually the hardest part, right? That's where Gametime's app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You guys, I know I love their zone seats feature, but you know what else I love when it comes to Gametime? The prices are upfront with the fees already included. What you see is what you pay. There's no last-second switcheroos, surprises, nonsense. Once you hit the checkout, you see it right in front of you. You know, hey, this is the ticket, this is the seat, this is the price. None of that is going to change. That's the beauty of Gametime. You take the guesswork right out of it and take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event. Do it with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 up. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Gametime. And we're back on the Locked On Colts Squad Show, sadly recapping another loss, even though that hasn't been a whole heck of a lot of our discussion, as the 36-19 defeat in Jacksonville was overshadowed by the loss of Daniel Jones, who left the game in the first half with a lower leg, looked like an Achilles injury. But we talked about studs and duds. I know we're foaming at the mouth to talk about the officiating. There's plenty of other dud performances. I actually just wanted to be positive. Maybe it's just Zach's negative vibes of the whole thing. No, we're all negative right now. But let's actually start studs. And Zach, you had mentioned this person, and I think he deserves some studly flowers. You know, Zaire Franklin, right? I thought he played fairly well considering the circumstances. I don't think that there were a lot of good defensive individual performances today, and I think the defense as a whole was sort of a mess. But I thought Zaire Franklin played pretty well, just kind of surface level. If I had to pick somebody from the defense, I think 44 would be my guy.
Yeah, I think Charvarius or Mooney Ward was the best defender out there for the Colts for sure. I thought he had a big time bounce back game. Now he allowed the big catch, obviously, to Brian Thomas down the sideline, but you could have put you could put Deion Sanders or anybody there on him in that, and he's making that catch. That ball was a 1% chance of being completed, and he made that play. Franklin was big play hunting all game long, so there were a lot of missed tackles in the backfield, but I mean, when they were trailing for most of the game, you really had to create those big plays, and I thought he did have a couple stuff. So, you know, on a defense where I think the entire defensive line, sans Grover Stewart, was atrocious. Jermaine Pratt had a rough game. Jalen Jones had the worst game of his entire career out there. Franklin, I know the comments are mad here, but Franklin probably was their second or third best defender today. And maybe that speaks to how the defense played in this game. But yeah, outside of Mooney Ward, there wasn't like a pretty good defender out there. So Franklin at least made some negative plays out there for the Colts defense. I will give him that.
Negative plays as a positive.
Yeah, negative plays for the opposing offense. Yes, yes.
Because he made both. He made some other.
Yeah. He was up and down, but at least there were some ups in his game, I guess, right? Like Grover Stewart, I thought was up and down, and there were some ups as well. But everybody else, it was a lot of downs across the board for them. So it was rough. Let's see other positives here. The kicker didn't miss. I think that was cool. It's always nice when I don't have to really think too much about a kicker. Alec Pierce continued his play. Although he got hurt at the end of the game, he continued his really strong play, had a really, really solid game out there. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah.
You guys
I
have
mean,
any more?
Yeah.
Jake and Alan, we could give Riley Leonard some credit, right?
Yeah,
Like what a tough
Yeah.
situation to just be thrown into. Look, he's third string
Right.
for a reason. And I thought for the most part, he didn't embarrass himself out there. I mean, he's an extremely limited player, but I didn't think that it was a total grease fire or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, the best position in football is backup quarterbacks. You're one play away from being the most important person on the team. And when you come in, you don't have to be a world beater. You just want to maintain. If you can maintain, you can stay in the league a long time. And I think Riley Leonard was a lot closer to maintaining than he was being a world beater. Now, can he improve? Absolutely. Yeah, having a week where he's taking number one reps, hopefully it doesn't blow his mind because of all the responsibilities a starter has when they come up to the line of scrimmage and have to see, this defense, I got to check to that play. No, they've moved out of that defense. I got to check to another play. Just getting in the rhythm of doing all that stuff. You hope that doesn't blow his mind, but he's athletic enough to run his way out of trouble. So I think he'll be all right. As far as other, I guess what I would call studs, I think Michael Pittman played a pretty decent game today, and Alec Pierce. I think those two guys, Alec Pierce continues to amaze me, but I'm not surprised once I found out it's his contract year, because you always play better in your contract year. But, it may have been one too many concussions he got, because sometimes teams are reluctant to pay because if you keep getting concussions, they might want to cut you loose too. So I hope he's going to be all right. But I think the receivers acquitted themselves pretty well. The few times that Josh Downs was able to get the ball, he was able to make something happen. So there were some bright spots, but I am convinced, having been with you guys now for how many months, close to 6 months, that stadium and that particular game is haunted. There is something about it. It was just eerie when it came on, and the rain just added to the theater of it. Gloomy day. Of course, it's going to rain on your ass because it's a gloomy day, and nothing going your way.
Yeah, I thought Pierce and Pittman both had really good games. Downs didn't get called on a lot, but when he did, I thought he came through. Tyler Warren as well. Like those small things he wasn't able to do last week when he was sick, he kind of came through with those. But last week I didn't want to throw full blame on the refs last week for the loss. I was just like, this is a game of like the most minute details in how you win and lose. And I thought when I evaluate like Riley Leonard's performance today, it came down to like some really tiny details as well. Like overall, yes, he was a 6th-round rookie thrust into a situation that is too big necessarily for where he's at right now. Like that's the truth of it. But you look at it, the Alec Pierce almost touchdown. Like if that goes down as a touchdown, I think we're having a little different conversation about Leonard. The Pittman OPI that was just ridiculous. That was a true touchdown. Jags fans can say the same thing, but like those are two plays that could have been touchdowns. Now I think only one of those resulted in actual points. They got a field goal. Maybe they got field goals on both.
No, they got a touchdown late too. From Leonard ran for the touchdown after the Pierce non-touchdown. But
he led like 4 scoring drives in total, 3 or 4 scoring drives. But yeah, like just the tiniest, it goes your way either way, where those could have been touchdowns, like really nice throws. And we're probably feeling even a little bit more rosy about him. So we'll see if he's the kind of guy, because this is how Shane is. If Shane has time to prepare a backup quarterback, it feels like it doesn't go well. You know what I mean? You look at Flacco, you look at Minshew. But if the backup gets thrown into a game, like in game to replace a backup, they cook. Like Shane is really good with it. That player is usually really good with it. So we'll see if Leonard is like oh shoot, here I go, like ball out gamer like that, or if it winds up where you have a week to prepare now for Seattle. How does it look? Does it look just absolutely horrendous, like Sam Ellinger against the Patriots? We'll see. But like in his history, you guys can back me up. When Shane has a backup quarterback and a whole week to prepare, it almost never goes well.
I swear, I told my mom the same thing in high school. When I study for a test, I do worse. I just need to spend my time playing video games the week before and not study, and I'll do so much better. Yeah, I do so much better off of vibes. But yeah, we have so many duds that we have to get to in this one because, I mean, I think the biggest dud, and this is where I'm actually going to get on Lou Anarumo for one of my few times this year. I don't understand Jalen Jones over Mekhi Blackmon in this game. And I know at the end of the day, it looked worse than what we would have thought coming in. And I know a lot of Colts fans been saying Jalen Jones, get him out there, but Mekhi Blackmon's been fine. Like the only argument I see really for it was like that Blackmon had a slipping problem earlier in the year, and maybe you don't want to put him out there on the wet grass. But outside of that, Blackmon's been the better corner than Jalen Jones this year in all offseason as well. Not like I know that Blackmon wasn't here, but Jones had a really rough offseason. I don't understand getting him out there and starting, and he was dreadful. Like it was truly awful out there with him at corner. He had a target on his back all game long, and they just kept peppering him in the passing game. And that's where a huge part of it kind of came in there. Defensive line, the pass rush was just abysmal. And this is always a problem against Jacksonville. They can never rush the passer against Jacksonville whatsoever. But I mean, Leatu Latu got nothing. There was no hits, no pressures, no sacks there for the Colts defense. Even when they brought blitzes, they were getting picked up. It was just brutal. And the couple times they had free rushers, Trevor Lawrence made them miss. And it's like, they were trying to get pressure, but they couldn't get it done with the players who are just not stepping up and not winning and not getting into the backfield. And then the biggest dud, I think you have to point at the head coach, Shane Steichen. And this is not, again, like a huge play calling thing, but 2-8 against your two biggest rivals in the division. And this isn't, the third string quarterback was in there for this one. So I'm not going to say like this is everything, but again, 2-8, that's 10 games of sample size. They have a 20% win percentage against their two biggest rivals in the division. And it's constantly been your team just not showing up for these games. I mean, this was an absolute beatdown. And like, even if Jones plays this game, I don't know if they win it the way it started out and how lackluster these guys looked out there. And that falls on you as a head coach. I'm not saying that every head coach needs to be this super rah guy that pumps you up, but you just can't have guys laying down in a divisional game like that. Where was the fight in this team today? They were just getting steamrolled all game long. I mean, the running, like the rushing touchdowns early, like the 20-something yard touchdown by ETN, a walk-in touchdown from 20 yards out. Where is the fight? Where's the competitiveness from your team? And they were just failing at all phases and just not playing good football. So, yeah, I mean, look, I've been a Shane Steichen guy. I think he has been a good play caller, and I think he's done some good things. But at the end of the day, this is inexcusable. They constantly fall short in these games. The team doesn't show up, and they make a lot of mistakes and boneheaded plays. And that falls on the head coach. At the end of the day, if your employees are struggling, it falls on the manager, regardless of how much of an impact it had on him. And that's what's happening in these games. So I'm not fully blaming him where it's like, yeah, they didn't win with Riley Leonard out there, because who the heck is going to win with Riley Leonard against a playoff caliber team? But this has been a trend for Shane Steichen's teams with the Colts. He's 2-8 in his time against these two teams. No wonder they haven't won a division under him. No wonder they haven't won it in however long, because they cannot get it done in these big divisional games, and it's constantly happened. To have the lack of fight they had today, like, I'm fine with if you lose the game with your third string quarterback out there, it happens. But to have it just be an absolute beatdown where you're making constant mistakes and guys are giving up on play, like, come on, man. Let's be better than that out there. At least go down fighting out there. I didn't see much fight from many of the guys out there. And it was just a dreadful beatdown loss.
I'll throw this in. Maybe it's because there were 5 games left. Because as a player, you really try to condition yourself physically and mentally for what we call the stretch run. And the stretch run is 4 games. So you got to throw the 5th game out, because you really try to prepare yourself, especially depending upon how you played, in the prior games, to be in a position in that stretch run to make a difference. You always, even in your off season, when you're training, when you're practicing in the middle of the season, you are preparing so that you can be at your best in that stretch run. Well, I guess it's here now. So now they can flip that switch. They couldn't flip it today because number one, they were in Jacksonville. Number two, it was raining. Number three, sometimes I'm sorry to say this, but sometimes you start believing that the place is haunted and you can't win. Sometimes you believe you can't win in a place where you haven't won before. But now that you've gotten past that, you can really hone in on those 4 games that you have left. Of course, you're going to do them one at a time. But this is what all that extra weightlifting and training and stuff is for, is to play your best in the last 4 games. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. All you can do is go out and play your best in the last 4 games to give yourself a shot.
Yeah, no question about that. We come back here on the Colts Squad Show. The Daniel Jones injury obviously overshadows everything, but this latest loss in Jacksonville, it's just another chapter in a long-time trend for the Colts in critical late-season games. We're going to talk about that when the Squad Show returns for a final time next. This portion of the Colts Squad Show brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. I think we saw that, unfortunately, especially today in the wake of the Jones injury in Jacksonville. But it's also great to hop in when a quarterback is healthy and starts dealing, or a defense starts dominating the game. You guys can sense that when games just feel like they're changing. You open up the FanDuel app and those live spreads and money lines adjust instantly, giving you the chance to play, when the time is right for you, when things are changing. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. And we're back for a final time here on the Locked On Colts Squad Show. Thanks so much for making us a part of your Sunday afternoon. Colts fall in Jacksonville, now 8-5 and out of first place in the AFC South, alongside Alan Pinkett, Jake Arthur, Zach Hicks. I am Derek Schultz. So, guys, I sometimes sort of like to look. I know, Alan, you're new to the Colts curses and fandom and all of these things that have kind of been part of our lives for a long time here in Indianapolis. But this loss, and I get that Jones got hurt in it, and Jake, I think you could especially chime in here. This is just seemingly what has been happening. If you ask me, okay, why do the Colts not win the AFC South over and over and over again? It's because they have these December divisional games, just like this one, or just like last week against Houston, and they lose them over and over again. And part of me is like, yes, there are contexts to some of these, but there are also games like they lost consecutive Decembers at home to Houston, to Brock Osweiler and Brandon Weeden. They lost a game, a win-and-in game against Houston to end the 2023 season. This kind of is a trend that has happened for a long time here, and I'm just not willing to give. And I understand that some of these obviously predate this current regime of head coach, even team owner. With Carly being new on the job here in the wake of her father's passing, but this is something that Colts fans just kind of keep having to deal with over and over again. It just feels like when the chips have been down and the Colts have reached a crisis point or a turning point of the season, a must win, if you want to use that term. I know it's cheesy and it gets thrown out there a lot. The Colts almost always fall on their face.
They do. I mean, I go and I look back at 2021, the Carson Wentz season. You win either one of the last 2 games against the Raiders and the Jaguars, and you're in. Just win one game against 2 awful teams, and you're in. They didn't win either of them. You got the Texans game with the 4th and 1. They obviously didn't convert on that, but yeah, it's. I don't know if you call it a culture thing or what, but like it's kind of ingrained in their DNA. Like they collapse, they choke, like, and there's just really no kind way to put it. When you're favored, when they did not have momentum in this game, but like they had momentum the entire first half of the year. Guys, they were the number 1 team in the NFL. Number 1 team in the NFL for like most of the first half of the year, which is insane to think about because they've looked like one of the worst teams over the last month plus now. So yeah, I don't know what it is. And like, I don't want to accuse players of like giving up or anything like that, because competition is instinctive. Like they're not out there trying to lose or not give effort or anything. They want to win just the same. But like, I just don't know how collapses like this happen so systematically. You know what I mean? It's not just one player, one unit, one side of the ball. It's everybody all at once. And, you know, you look at the Giants game last year. How in the hell did that happen? Like this, to me, I have not been as disgusted in a game as today, like since that Giants game last year. I just sat here with a straight glum face with no expression, feeling dead inside the entire game. You know what I mean? Now, part of that was Jones, but like they did not show any spark or any fight after that to show that it was gonna be that there was going to be any sort of light at the end of the tunnel. And I mean, they have a week to do some soul searching and figure it out. Like these are going to be tough matchups in the last handful of games here. They're going to be tough. There's no guarantee they're going to win any of them, but you have to show up and you have to try, because what people are now expecting is a bunch of those Giants performances. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they have to prove that they're above that.
Yeah, and part of it for me too, because again, you guys know I like to look at things analytically and through this, like, you know, not from like the rah, like, oh, I got to just play tougher type of mindset and stuff. And part of it is like the fact that they've just been very unlucky in a lot of these situations. Your quarterback tearing his Achilles, which has apparently been confirmed now. Pro Football Talk reported. Pro Football Talk reported that the torn Achilles is official. So there's something like that. There's, you know, the drop by Tyler Goodson against Houston in 2023. Like these are not things that consistently are supposed to be repeatable. But when it happens for 10 straight years, for 15 straight, whatever, ever since Peyton Manning's neck injury, it's been happening to this Colts team over and over and over again. It's more than just a like, oh, it unlucky or just bad luck or something. There's something going on with this team. I don't know if it's like Alan says, where you see the curse on paper and your brain gets wrapped up in the curse, that it could be real and it affects your play on the field. I don't know if it's just a string of bad luck or what it is, or if they need to just completely reevaluate how they do things. At the end of the day, they have just been a team that comes up short ever since ever since they cut Peyton Manning. They have been a team that comes up short. I know Andrew Luck gave them a couple good years in there, but they've just been a team that comes up short in big situations and lays down in a lot of these. And it doesn't matter if it's Chuck Pagano, it doesn't matter if it's Frank Reich, if it's Shane Steichen. It's just happened over and over and over again. And these snowball effect games just keep happening from, I mean, remember in 2019 when Jacoby Brissett was regressing down the stretch. Remember that Saints game where they just put it on. I think Drew Brees had like a 95% completion percentage and they won by like 50 in that game. There's the Giants game last year. There's everything that happened down the stretch in 2022 where teams were just kicking them down, like down the gutter. And it just keeps happening. Even in the years where they're playoff bound or they're potentially playoff bound, you see these late season collapses and struggles. So I don't know, like maybe Alan can give us a little bit here from the player perspective, but just from like the fan perspective, it does feel like just an organizational thing that just keeps happening over and over again, regardless of who the players are, the names are. They just keep coming up short late in games and putting together these embarrassing performances.
Well, I mean, it is a job, and sometimes you have lulls in your job, and what you have to do is find the joy part of doing that job. And the joy part is winning. And sometimes when you lose, the only thing you learn from it is how to lose even more. And somehow you have to reverse that trend. I would say that you just have to refine that joy that you had early in the year. Because, you know, when you were winning games, you couldn't wait to get to the facility. You look forward to practice. You know, you look forward to Sunday. On game day, there was nothing better. But when you lose, you know, it's a 45-pound weight you're carrying around on your back, and it's just a function of everybody getting on the same page and everybody being positive, and like you said, everybody fighting. Because let's face it, the game against the Texans, they were noticeably flat. When I saw that, I'm like, who the hell is this on the field? And especially going 3 and out first 2 series. So and it continued into this game. So that's why I mentioned you sort of build yourself, prepare yourself for the 4 final games of the year. You try to gear everything towards those 4 final games. So that's why I'm willing to toss this one out against Jacksonville. Yeah, because it was 5 left. But now that there's 4 left, you can be laser focused on what you have to do, and they should be encouraged by the fact that they can still play in the postseason. It's right there for them. I don't care who's at quarterback. They got a shot at playing in the postseason. And, here's the thing I'll say about the postseason, because a lot of people talk about the money that, a lot of these guys make. Well, it's always been interesting to me that the time in the NFL where you make the least money is for the highest stakes, when you play in the playoffs and then play for the Super Bowl. For a lot of guys, it's like taking a pay cut. But there's something about getting that ring. There's something about winning those games that is more appealing than any dollar amount they could give you. So, and with that comes joy. So I just encourage the players to find the joy element in what it is that they do. And if you like to win, let's do what we got to do to get back to winning.
But I think that's the troubling thing about this. And look, I know we only have 4 minutes left, and we can't really do like the whole shabazz here when it comes to the Colts. But I tweeted this earlier today that everyone would agree this is a good Colts core, right? But the common denominator with Jonathan Taylor, Quentin Nelson, Zaire Franklin, Kenny Moore, Michael Pittman Jr., they haven't won anything. And I do think that goes into this where the Colts have reached these crisis points of the season, and there's been nothing to kind of pull them out of it because these guys haven't won anything tangible in their careers. They're all good individual players, and the Colts have had a modicum of success. I wouldn't call them losers per se. They haven't won, and so it's hard for me to trust them to pull the team out of it when you don't have, you have a couple of guys sprinkled in this locker room that have won elsewhere. Yeah, but like the main core of this team hasn't. And I just wonder, Zach, you're exactly right about luck and all of that. But man, you keep running this thing back with the same GM. And how often can we keep just saying, oh well, it's bad luck? You know what I mean? At some point, you just kind of have to make a cut and you got to make a change.
Yeah. I think if you miss the playoffs here, if you go 8-9, you just have to. I mean, we've said this 5 times in his tenure at this point.
You're right.
So who knows if they actually do, but at some point it doesn't happen. In the crappy part is they can't even go into a rebuild next year. They can't tear it all down. They can't because they don't have a first round pick. You can't tank in a year where you don't have your first round pick. There's no incentive to that. So they do have to commit to winning football next year as well. So I don't know if that's with Ballard, with Steichen, with Jones coming back and playing in the second half of the year. I don't know who it's with, but they have to commit to trying to get those wins next year. It can't be a tear it down and tank season because you have no incentive to. You're not gaining anything out of tearing it down and tanking. I don't know. Like, it's such a bleak outlook now. And you would say this for any team that had their quarterback just go down with a torn Achilles. Like, you could put 31 other teams in this same exact bubble and say if your quarterback went down with a torn Achilles, what's the outlook for this roster? Everyone would be 2 years older by the time he's back, and who knows how effective he's going to be. But it does stink to be in that situation where, you're riding high. You found like you found something good in Jones. And I even think the last couple of games, I think like last game in particular, he played pretty well against Houston. I thought he had a good second drive today as well. But now with him being out and not really, where's their avenue to get another quarterback in here? And like you said, Derek, you're still surrounded by the same leadership group that hasn't won a thing. And they have not shown to be that leadership group that can win a thing. The only times they've made the playoffs with this leadership group was with a Pro Bowl, all pro caliber and Andrew Luck, and a future Hall of Famer, potential Hall of Famer, and Phillip Rivers at quarterback, who were the leaders of those teams. So I don't know, man. It sucked. It's a really bleak outlook for not only this year, but next year as well.
Yeah, I thought that, the Colts addressed this by bringing in Mooney Ward, somebody who came from a winning culture. Because that's what you do is when you've got a group of guys that are not used to winning, you expose them to someone who is used to winning. And I thought we addressed that when we brought in Ward. It's kind of similar to when I was in Green Bay. There were decent players, but when they brought Reggie White in, it changed everything. So it may be they have to bring in a couple of folks like that from winning organizations to establish a culture of winning, because you can get caught up in doing the same thing all the time, unless you're told differently. No, we're going to do it like this. So hopefully Ward has that influence that, hey, I've been on teams that have been to the Super Bowl. This is what we need to do.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Colts Squad Show. That's it's a tough way to end, right? I mean, it's getting dark at like 5:30 now, so I guess we can get dark on this show right around 5:30. We are your place for live game recaps following each and every Colts game this season, but we'll have a Wednesday show too at 9 p.m., so don't miss our midweek edition as well. We'll be back with you then, wrapping up the first practice and injury report of Week 15 as Indy prepares to head out to the PNW to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. But until then, follow us on socials at Locked On Colts. Jake and Zach will have you covered in the meantime, and check out our other great content on YouTube and TikTok. And we'll see you next time right here on the Colts Squad Show.